This episode is proudly supported by ArtsPay. As a hospitality owner, you know that when it comes to business, the right tools are everything, especially when it comes to payments. ArtsPay, based in Australia, is a payment solution built on a unique model. They give 50% of their profits back to the arts community. They provide world-class point-of-sale payments and support that make your operations run smoothly. But with every transaction, a portion of the fees helps build a permanent funding source for Australia's artists and cultural institutions. What's best is it costs less too. The result is a powerful way for your business to grow and become a force for good. You're not just taking payments, you're directly supporting the vibrant culture that makes our communities unique. ArtsPay believes that business should add up for everyone. For more information, go to artspay.com. ArtsPay, it pays to make the change.
Yeah, I think it's just, from changing from working for someone to working for yourself, there's, you just own it and you put in your heart and soul, everything that you've got to create a life for yourself.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Food truly is an international language, and the love for a life in food transcends boundaries and distance. Today's guest is a true culinary force whose passion for food began with her Italian heritage. Now she's teaming up with her husband to run a wonderful destination venue. Emma D'Alessandro is the co-owner of Cognoscenti Food and Wine in Victoria's Dandenong Ranges. Emma, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, Huck. Thanks for having me. How are you?
I'm good. It's great to get you on the show. You guys have got a wonderful venue there on the outskirts of Melbourne, or a small trip from Melbourne. How are things at the moment?
Yeah, really good. We've just completed a 6-week renovation. We knew that when we bought the restaurant, it definitely needed some cosmetic changes, and we knew the kitchen, we were entering into a very small space, and we, had thought for a couple of years about how we could make it better, and it finally came to fruition just in July this year. So we did a lot of planning to get the kitchen space bigger and just make the restaurant more efficient and more modern, and what we sort of saw as a restaurant in the hills.
What sort of impact has the changes had on sort of operations and sort of experience for guests as well?
For us as a team, working in a space that's, what we envisioned has just made it better. It's more efficient, more streamlined, and, we have such a wonderful clientele base of locals that, just when they walk in and they see the changes that we've made, it's, such a positive experience for everyone, including the staff. So, they're not sort of fumbling around, in the cutlery tray. Everything has a place now, and it works much better. So, yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the region that you're in and why you guys chose there.
Yep. So we're in Belgrave. So it's the end of the Belgrave line on the train station near Puffinbilly. We decided there purely because it was something that came up for sale. Kevin and I live in the area, and, we were sort of umming and ahhing through COVID about what we were going to do with our lives after Donovan's. And, those years through COVID were quite challenging. We had a friend reach out and say, there's this place for sale. You guys should look at it. You sound like you're ready to do something. So we weren't really looking. And then we thought, bugger it, we'll just go have a look. So we contacted the agent. And then, I grew up in Upper French Gully, so I know the area well. And, we went and had a look. And, as soon as we walked in, it was we knew that it was something that we could work with. The space was beautiful, really old Art Deco character, had a wonderful feel about it. And we just thought, well, if we don't do it now, we'll probably regret it, or we'll just, feel like we haven't challenged ourselves enough. So we just put an offer in and got accepted. And, we felt Belgrave was missing, sort of like a really nice restaurant that people could go to celebrate or just have a casual meal. So we thought we'll just bite the bullet, and we did it. And, it's such a beautiful area in the forest. It's on a tourist trail. It's a nice little restaurant for us. And that we're really happy that we took it on. So as challenging as it was.
Tell us a little bit about the food and the offering that you have there and the experience for guests.
Yeah, we wanted to do, we're not going to say fine dining, but casual fine dining. It's only natural after all of us working at Donovan's for so long that, the food that we cooked there would translate into food that we cook now. It's probably modern Australian, and obviously with my Italian background and Kevin's French. So we sort of came together and, have influences in both those cuisines, which we love. It's nothing too outrageous. We just cook what we love with some classic dishes on there, and obviously modern food that we enjoy eating. So it's and that's it.
You mentioned that you kind of lived in the area, but was the transition work-wise a challenge for you after sort of years at Donovan's and working in the city? And was it different sort of creating that model regionally?
It was different. It was different in a good way because we had no constraints. We just sat down when we took over the restaurant and decided to open, we made a decision that Kevin was going to be the head chef and that I would support him. Obviously, with two young boys, my primary role is to look after them, and I wanted to do that. I was ready to step back and let Kevin, take the role and just support him. So, but we do sit down together and he writes the menu, and then we sort of collaborate and think of different ideas. So that's how it comes together. So it's purely just by talking. We go out and have breakfast together and talk about the food that we want to cook, and if something's not selling, what would we do to change it, or things that are popular. Sort of tweak it till we find a good balance with what people want and what we want to cook. So.
You had an extraordinary career in Melbourne, which we'll get to shortly, but take us back to when you were young. Tell us about life and food in your family as a kid.
Yeah, so we grew up sort of Aussie Italian. Both my grandparents are Italian. My dad was born in Italy and he came over when he was 8. It was, memories of my sister and I staying for 2 weeks down at my Nana and Nono's house in Rye, which was on my mum's side. And I can always vividly remember picking beans, cutting lettuce, picking the fruit off the trees and just cooking the beans and making salad, for the dinner that night. I remember the smell of, my Nonna cooking schnitzels just in olive oil. That was just wonderful experiences through my childhood. And then on my dad's side, they lived in Thomastown and really Italian. Like you walk into the house and there's the old Italian smell of Coca-Cola and prosciutto and cheese and, fig trees out the back, grapevines from Italy. It was amazing. And I look at it now. I think what a blessing it was to be part of that. And then that translated down to my mum, all her cooking. And I remember as a kid with her, there were always so many Italian dishes that we used to cook. And then probably my fondest memory was always making gnocchi with her, and we would make the gnocchi, and there would be probably 10 main-sized plates all over the table just ready to cook. When she wasn't looking, my sister and I would steal pieces and, probably never eat dinner properly and because we had eaten so much pre-cook. But, yeah, it was fantastic. And, we try and we do that with our 2 boys ourselves, making sure that they're part of everything we do in the kitchen and cooking. So.
Was a life and career in food something that you always envisaged, and sort of how did you get started sort of professionally?
Yep, I always wanted to be a chef. I was terrible at school. I was terrible at maths. Didn't like science, and the school that I went to was very academic, and I was just wanted to be creative. So I did finish high school, and I went to TAFE in Chisholm in Dandenong and studied hospitality management. And then I just loved cooking. And one of the classes was a cooking class, and the chefs were like, "Oh, you're really good. You should do an apprenticeship." And I said, "Well, I want to. I just don't know where to start." And so they helped me find one. And that was down in St Kilda at a little cafe called the Fringe Cafe. It was when St Kilda really took off as a sort of food area. But yeah, always wanted to be a chef. And, if I had my time over again, I probably would do the same thing. Because it's something that I've always loved to do. So, yeah.
As you started to build your career, what sort of the really important people and venues that you worked with in the early years?
Yeah. So when I left the Fringe Cafe, and my head chef at the time had said to me, "Look, don't just go back to the hills and work in some cafe. I want you to go somewhere, that's going to give you some really good skills." So she actually took me to Donovan's. This was when I was 19. And they were shut for lunch. And she said, "Do you mind if we can just look around the restaurant?" So I can remember walking with her around the restaurant. I had no intention of working there as a 19-year-old. And she said, "If you're ever going to, go for a job, you need to apply for places like this." And I was like, "There's no way I could work here. Like, I just, I don't have the skills." And, and come full circle, I did end up there. But yeah, I left there, and I can't for the life of me remember the restaurant that I went to, but it was next to Chinois on Toorak Road, and it was an Italian restaurant. And I met this head chef called Robert Cunningham, and he was so passionate about everything that he did, and he really took me under his wing. And, I ended up staying with him for 3 years, and we worked around together. So he would leave his job, and then I'd follow him. So we ended up at was at the Duck at the casino, which was just wild, baptism of fire, doing really good services. We ended up at Riva in St Kilda when that first started, and that was just crazy. It's busy, yeah. And then somewhere else I can't remember, but I just had enough. By the end, I just wanted somewhere stable, I guess, and I said, "I'm just going to quit." And I went to Byron Bay for 2 weeks. I came back with absolutely no money, and then I just said, "I'm going to apply for a job at Donovan's." And I did, and I can still remember it to this day, like walking past the window, and there was Robert Castellani sitting in the window, and I was just so nervous, and ended up having a good interview with him, and that's how it all started. So yeah, I dedicated 16 years of my life to working at Donovan's, and that was my career. Yeah.
Extraordinary amount of time. Those sort of that first time you stepped in the kitchen, that sort of first year, what was it like compared to the other kitchens and environments that you'd worked in?
Oh, it was just extremely structured, and everyone had a set place and a job to do. There were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sections or 8 sections, including pastry. And, it felt like a real proper kitchen that you would experience in Europe, I guess, in other kitchens. So much different from the cafe. God, I remember when I first started my apprenticeship at the cafe, God, it was just nuts. I don't remember not even knowing how to slice spring onions, and, to then having to poach a box of eggs, just breakfast cafe food. And it was just wild, whereas Donovan's was, you started from the bottom in larder, scrubbing cool room floors and, making sure everything was organised, putting away the orders, to then larder and pastry, pasta, fryer, and the barbecue and main course, and then eventually to the pass where you ran the kitchen. So, yeah, it was much more structured. And
well, you worked your way all the way to the top as head chef at Donovan's. But what was it about that restaurant and that environment that kept you there for so long?
I just loved it. Like, I think, working for Kevin and Gail was an awesome experience. Like, it was a once in a lifetime opportunity for me to be welcomed like family, to this restaurant that, has a massive turnover. and it just felt like I'd found my place in my job, and to be able to learn as much as I could. Working with Robert Castellani, he was a walking encyclopedia of food, and I just thrived on that. There would be lists of questions every week that he would give us to answer about food, and that was something that I was looking for, was to be nurtured and mentored into all areas of the kitchen and food, I guess, and that's where I found my happiness, and a really good team of chefs, and some of the chefs that I worked with, we were together for 5 years. It was a really, really wonderful experience, and to be given that opportunity eventually to be a head chef was incredible at 30 years old.
Take us back to that moment. What was it like for you, having been part of the team, but then moving to head chef and having a different role? What was it like?
Oh, it was stressful. After I think I was there for 8 years. I'd have been there for 8 years. I had, I think I was obviously sous chef at the time. And just one day the Donovans just approached me and said, we want to make some changes. Would you be interested in taking the head chef role? And looking back at 30, oh my God, it was incredible opportunity. But still, even though I'd been there for that long, it was a whole new experience to be a head chef. Managing people, and really the buck stops with you when it comes to making all the decisions. So I can specifically remember standing there, people asking me questions, and I'm just like. And my sous chef was looking at me and said, Emma, this is it for you. You've got to make these decisions. And, and I just took it under my stride and said, okay, I've just got to do this, knuckle down. And, and you learn, as you work, you just learn things as you go. So even though I knew a lot of the stuff, it was still, everything else, all the behind the scenes stuff with customers and food costings and menus. It was a massive job, but I just thrived. And I really, really took it upon myself to do the best job that I could, and that meant giving my life to the job. So
yeah. And given the sort of the role and the depth of it, and dealing with staff and all these decisions, what was it also like, sort of finding your voice on the plate? Are there any dishes sort of from that time when you were head chef that sort of stand out to you, that sort of speak of where you're at with your cooking?
Gosh, the menu changed. It was such an extensive menu. That's what the Donovans wanted. So there was sort of parameters that you had to stick to. So a lot of the pasta dishes was what I really enjoyed cooking. Obviously there was stuff on the barbecue. There was just so much Huck that it all translates to everything that we do now in pastas, steaks, cooking on the Joss bar, which is what we have at the restaurant now. Pastry dishes. There's nothing that stands out for me. It's all sort of even par with just creating dishes that we like. We love to cook.
Like Donovan's and where you are now, great produce is core to sort of what you do. Is there any sort of local producers that you work of that you can speak about? Well,
yes, we have really good relationships with the companies that we use, and there's this awesome Romaro Farm is one up at the Patch. One of the ladies that helps run it, her daughter goes to school with my son. So it's a really nice just chat with her at the school grounds, like what have you got growing and what's coming up. So the produce that comes out of the farm is just incredible. So, and then we've got access to everything that is grown around the Yarra Valley. So we're really lucky to have such beautiful produce at our doorstep.
Your husband is also a chef who you work with, you mentioned, in the restaurant. How did you guys meet, and what's the journey of food been like for you guys?
Yep. So we met at Donovan's. we were looking for a pastry chef, and I had some pretty bad experiences with some French pastry chefs, and I was really stupidly generalized who he was going to be. So he applied for the job, and I looked at his resume and just put my pen through it and said no. And then the other head chef that I was working with, Adam, had hired him on my days off, and I remember going up to Kevin and I just looked at him, and I can definitely admit that I was could be very rude, and just went up to him and said, if you have any hint of being like a egotistical French pastry chef, then there's no job for you here. And he just looked at me and was like, oh, okay. And then, I can't take it back, but I was grossly mistaken about who he was and the sort of, pastry chef that he was. And oh my God, it just ended up being this great friendship that we had. And he just said to me, I really like you. I'd like to spend some time with you. And, I was just like a bit shocked and said, okay. And then, our relationship blossomed. And then, we were together for, a very long time. And then it ended up, we got married in France, and then, we had children. I had my first child in 2016, and then I went back full-time to Donovan's when he was 9 months old, and then we fell pregnant with our second child, and then I said, I just need to be a mum. And so Kevin took the head chef job after me. So, I met him in not the best circumstances because I was pretty rude to him, and but, I learned, and, he's this wonderful guy. Like and I'm not being biased, but out of all the chefs that I've worked with in my time, he's just incredible. Like in all aspects, he's just got this passion. He just, jumps around the kitchen with such enthusiasm, and he's just got great cooking skills and great ideas. So it's nice to work with him as well. So, it's been a good journey. Yeah.
Do you think both of your cooking has changed with the collaborative nature that you have now with cooking?
It's probably grown. I think we've just learnt to pare back on, stuff that we were doing. It's just being more simple in what we do, but with great ingredients and more refined. And it just let the food speak for itself. So it's probably, we can say to each other, I don't think that works, or take that off. You don't need it. So it probably, works really well for us at the restaurant because we can see things that others, the other person can't see or taste. So I guess it just makes it a little bit better.
So many restaurants in Australia are small family-run restaurants like yours. What's it been like for you after sort of the frenetic energy of Donovan's for 16 years, and then having a family and balancing family with running a restaurant? Like, how's it changed sort of you and your approach?
Well, I think, after leaving Donovan's, I had a really hard time changing. It was from going from a head chef to being, busy and everyone needs you and wants you, to then just being at home with two children was a huge change for me, and I had to learn to slow down. And it took me probably about 6 months to really settle in and realize that wasn't me anymore. And I think it was a really good change, for after such a long time. And then moving into our restaurant, I've learnt and realised that having a really good balance in life with family and work is of utmost importance, and making sure there's time for work and putting in 100% and then being able to switch off. So, it's been a really good change for me and for Kevin and our children. So, owning the restaurant now has just been lovely. So much more work-life balance for me.
Well, that sort of change is something that a lot of people contemplate. What sort of advice would you have for someone out there that might be looking for that kind of change to slow life down a little bit and be maybe open a restaurant in the country like you have?
Look, it's owning our business is still comes with all its challenges, as opposed to having a job where you take a paycheck and you don't have to worry about all the behind the scenes stuff, to then running a business and making sure there's enough money at the end of the week to pay for all the bills, all the permits, taxes, all that sort of stuff. So I think you just got to do due diligence on making sure that you've got enough experience to, cover all bases, and, you just got a level head to make sure that you're offering what customers want, but also, enough creativity to satisfy your own needs. And just doing it with good people around you that can support you and, make it work, I guess.
Well, you've created something special there. What do you love about what you do?
Oh, I love that. I love that when you get to Belgrave and you see these two doors and they're unassuming. There's just, it's on the shadow side of the road. But as soon as you walk in, it has this wonderful, wonderful feeling about it, this warmth, this welcoming. It's a beautiful space to work in. We have a wonderful kitchen team that we thought we would never have. And, we've been able to make sure that no one works splits, that, we have these beautiful staff meals every day, and that, we've built up this wonderful customer base of locals that really enjoy coming and that we see every week, if not every second week. Adrian, our business partner, who is also the front of house manager, has curated this wonderful wine list of, over 200 references. We weren't sure if that was something that was what people wanted, but it's been met with such wonderful, wonderful responses from people that dine with us. It's been fantastic. So, I think it's just, from changing from working for someone to working for yourself, there's, you just own it and you put in your heart and soul, everything that you've got to create a life for yourself.
Well, Emma, it's an absolute honour to have you on Deep in the Weeds today, and can't wait to see where you take things from here. So please keep in touch and we'll catch up again soon.
Yep. Thank you so much, Huck, for having me. Pleasure to talk.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we take a deep dive into the lives of the incredible people who ply their trade in the food and hospitality sector. Special thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Follow us on Instagram at Deep in the Weeds Podcast, or email us at podcast@deepintheweeds.com.au. Thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Stay safe and be well.